we are so delighted and happy to have this second part of the Wilmette Institute's Why Live with Rainn Wilson, a truly loved actor and humanitarian. We would like to start the program really with a moment of silence and appreciation and good wishes and thoughts for those who have lost loved ones in this health crisis, those who have passed on, those who are on the front lines every day working and helping, and all of the decision makers and international organizations working, people working at the grassroots. Basically, a moment of silence for humanity and the end to this pandemic. Okay, hope everyone's doing well today. We have looked at some of the questions from last week and those new who registered on Zoom for our dear guest, what should I say, guest speaker. And I don't want to take a second more than to really introduce Rainn to us. Rainn, as many of you know, has played Dwight Schrute on the sitcom The Office, the US one, makes everyone laugh, and has also been a part of so many different films and shows, so many to recount. He does have a forthcoming series, Utopia and the Power. Rainn Wilson also started Soul Pancake, a digital media company that also has, for me, some of the greatest thought-provoking questions to watch and get engaged with, and also started the Lide Foundation, which is an educational initiative that empowers at-risk women and girls in Haiti through the arts. So to me, the best part of getting to know Rainn Wilson is his huge heart and his deeds, not just his words. And without further ado, I wanted to welcome him to the show by asking our first question. I think that we are going to have Nikki take us through the beginning part of our slideshow. I believe We're going to start with a poll, Nikki. Is that right? Okay. So, how much do you know about the Baha'i Faith?
Yeah, this will be fun. This is for everyone. Everyone get involved. All right. So where are the options and how do they vote? Nikki, do you want to fill us in?
Okay. So you should be seeing this now. The question is, how much do you know about the Baha'i Faith? Next to nothing. I know a little bit. I know about it from attending Baha'i activities. I know quite a bit from reading and researching. I consider myself Baha'i. I know a lot, but I'm still learning. So
I'm not seeing those on the screen. Are other people seeing those on the screen?
Yes, they are, Rainn. Okay. I didn't let the panelists vote this time.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure. I'm double checking. Okay, awesome.
And it's only
so this is just very helpful to us folks, just to know like what kind of people we're talking to, if they know a little bit or a lot bit or nothing at all, like nada, zilch. Someone texted and they can't see anything. They texted on the chat. Someone else said, I don't see the options. So how do we get, maybe is it on the next slide or is it?
No, it says attendees are now viewing questions.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay. They're not. They're saying they're not seeing the questions.
Interesting.
Nikki, it's
sorry, technical glitch, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone says Pune Alai says, I can see the question, but we have a lot of people saying they can't.
In your webinar
Okay,
Zoom
let's
chat.
end polling
Someone
and
else.
try sending it again.
Yeah,
Right.
that would be great.
Okay, I'm launching it again.
Okay, here
There
it
we
is.
go. I see it
Got
too.
it.
Yeah. So there is your poll. Would love to hear from you all. Please vote, all 104 of you.
Okay, so we've got 33, 40, 48.
Come on, everybody, jump on in. It'll be fun. It's
You
interactive.
see the results at the end.
Let me see some more questions.
63.
Some people might be on phones or something like that and not really able to do it. So
yeah, I think if we have that much percentage, is good.
yeah, that's good. That's good. We got 2/3 of the
70
people.
of
That's
105, 72. Come on, 73, 74.
Nikki's about excellence. She will not.
You can do it.
So
I think I'm still reading. Okay,
where are we at? Let's look at the poll results. If we're at 80, we're doing great.
All right, drum roll, somebody. We don't have anything to drum on, but Nikki's going to give us the tally of.
Well, 63% of those who voted consider themselves Baha'i, and 11% say they know next to nothing. Another 11% know a little bit, have attended Baha'i activities, and 13% know quite a bit from reading and researching.
That's great. So we got a lot of Baha'is. So let's go. Let's do a deepening. Let's get out to your Kitabi Akdas. All right, go ahead, Chitra.
Yes. Okay. So I think no matter how much we know about the Baha'i Faith, many people are interested, Rainn, in your spiritual journey. So one of the questions that came from the Zoom participants, were you born into the Baha'i Faith? If not, how did you become a part of the community?
Yeah. So thanks for that question. All of these questions were either emailed to us or left on the comments from last week's talk or on the YouTube page or whatever. So my story is I was raised a member of the Baha'i Faith, and my parents were Baha'is, and they became Baha'is my dad actually became Baha'i in the early 60s, but a huge number of people became Baha'is in the late 60s and early 70s. There was a giant influx. I really need to look up the numbers, because I think the American Baha'i community literally went from like 10,000 to like 50,000 in like 3 years or something like that. It was it's a small amount of numbers considering several hundred million people in the United States, but for the Baha'i community, which was quite small, it was substantial. So my parents became Baha'i, and it was really a different time then. And I do remember this because I was a kid in the early and mid 70s, and the idea of searching for spiritual truth was just in the air. It was in the groundwater. People were searching. And nowadays, not so much. Last several decades, not so much. Not many solutions to be found on the spiritual path, I think, for a lot of people. Now, granted, there are definitely some seekers and searchers out there, and who are probably chatting right now like, I've been searching. What are you talking about? But at the time when everything fell apart, the whole Eisenhower, Doris Day, crew cut, early 50s and 60s American dream kind of fell apart, with a lot of different assassinations, with the civil rights movement, with riots in the street, with Vietnam. So coming out of that, people were like, what the hell is going on in this world? What does anything mean anymore? And the spiritual path became a legitimate one for people to follow. The Beatles visited the Maharishi and went to India. Steve Jobs lived on an ashram. Cat Stevens became a Muslim. People became Buddhists. They were searching for something deeper, some deeper truth than their parents and grandparents' church on the corner. And so in this milieu, a lot of people explored and became members of the Baha'i Faith. So I grew up in this very rich spiritual environment where the central teachings of the Baha'i Faith I was raised with. So I learned as a Baha'i that there was only one God that we all worshiped, regardless of what you call this God, Jehovah, Allah, the Great Spirit, Gaia, that this God sent educators, divine educators, teachers to humanity through the millennia. Every 500 or 1,000 years or something like that, a new divine teacher would come down, that many of which you've heard, Abraham, Krishna, Zoroaster, Moses, Jesus, the Buddha, Muhammad. And finally, I was raised in this milieu to believe that Baha'u'llah was the most recent of these divine teachers. Baha'u'llah, whose name means the glory of God, was a Persian nobleman. He was bestowed that title, and he claimed to be the most recent of these divine messengers. Baha'is call them manifestations of God because they're manifesting, literally, word made flesh, God made flesh on the earth to bring God's message for the inevitable maturity of the human race, the spiritual maturity of the human race. We're maturing in a lot of ways. Technologically, we've come so far in the last 100 years. Materially, we've matured, but spiritually, we've got a little ways to go. So many of Baha'u'llah's teachings really resonated with people in the late 60s and 70s.
Can you share a few of them? Just because in the poll, there were some people who really didn't know much. If you could just share a little
sure.
what the teachings are, that would be awesome.
Yeah. So there's so many of those central teachings really resonated with new Baha'is and spiritual seekers because they felt very relevant to modern day. But from a spiritual perspective. So Baha'is believe in the elimination of racial prejudice. This is a central teaching of Baha'u'llah's. Not necessarily through any political party, but through spiritual transformation, the equality of women and men, the elimination of extremes of wealth and poverty, looking at eliminating materialism, increasing education, the essential harmony between science and religion. We have this divide now in society. It's like you're either a person of faith or you're a person of science, and these two sides battle, online on the message boards all the time. But as Baha'is and through Baha'u'llah's message, we realize that they're the two wings of a bird. Materialism, science without a spirituality is just materialism, and spirituality without any science can lead very easily to superstition. So these are some of the central teachings. There's many, many more. And it was really cool because it was a lot of singing, and it was very diverse because Baha'is believe so strongly in unity and diversity and getting rid of all kinds of prejudice, racial prejudice and others. So there was African American Baha'is, Native American Baha'is, Asian Baha'is, so many different types of races and classes coming together. We would have meetings and there would be PhDs from the university and truck drivers, and it was everyone in between. And it was really beautiful to grow up that way. But for me personally, when I moved to New York City to become an actor, I just wanted nothing more to do with it. There's a lot of complicated personal reasons. I wanted to rebel against my parents. I wanted to just move to the big city and be a bohemian without any kind of moral teachings hanging over me, because the Baha'i Faith has some moral teachings like every religious faith does. And I didn't want anything to do with that. I wanted to kind of do what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. It was in a large part, like I mentioned before, a rebellion against my parents. And so I moved to New York City and I decided to become an atheist. I was like, I don't believe in God. People who believe in God are like grandmothers in church. No one else believes in it. It doesn't make any sense. Religion does so much evil in the world. I didn't want anything to do with it. And so I went to acting school, and my dream was to be an artist, to be a bohemian living in New York City, making it as an actor, living downtown in Greenwich Village and living that life. And this was beyond my wildest dreams. I went to acting school at NYU and I became a professional actor. And I had never known anyone. I came from suburban Seattle. I had never known any professional artists, anyone who got like a paycheck for being an artist. So this was crazy. But basically, there's a much longer version of this story, but the short story is I was very discontent and I had everything I wanted beyond my wildest dreams. I was working as an actor. I had a beautiful girlfriend who's now my wife. I had a great group of friends. I was working with top theater directors. I was telling great, interesting stories in the theater and working for years. Now I was pretty broke and I had to work a lot of other side jobs and stuff like that. It's not like I instantly made it, but I was working in my chosen field and I considered myself very lucky. And yet I was chronically dissatisfied. I was experiencing constant anxiety, depression, loneliness, disconnection. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Why? I have what I wanted. Why am I so unhappy? And so this led to my journey back to the Baha'i Faith. I went through a phase many years long where I started reading all the holy books of the world. And I read the Bible and I read the Quran and I read the Bhagavad Gita and I read the Dhammapada of the Buddha and many other religious books, Sikh books, Sufi books. Long story short, I came back to the Baha'i books. And I think for a lot of the 60% Baha'is that are watching, it was really important for me to have my own personal connection to the teachings of Baha'u'llah, to not just be being fed like a baby bird the teachings growing up, but to have my own experience reading Baha'u'llah's works. And so I read the major books of the Baha'i Faith that were translated, and I really had a number of kind of aha moments of like, this is true. I believe that there is one God. I believe that there are all these divine teachers and that Baha'u'llah is the most recent of these divine teachers, and that the Baha'i Faith can make my personal life richer, and the Baha'i Faith can also help humanity move forward and mature, because religion, we're taught in the Baha'i Faith, works on two tracks. The track of personal transformation and making yourself a better person, which sometimes people only focus on that track. But religion can also offer humanity a way forward, a system, a systematization, an organization, a way to put focus in groups of people to start grassroots movement towards service and prayer and making the world a better place. So that's kind of my that's my short version of a very long story of how I came back to the Baha'i Faith. And then I got, in the early 2000s is really when I kind of came back in, committed to it. And listen, it's not like instantly I became a Baha'i and, I was happy, didn't work like that, but it gave me a point of focus. It gave me purpose and direction and meaning, a lot of reflection, and has helped me a great deal. I've struggled. I've been very piss poor Baha'i much of the time. There's, I've had lots of ups and downs through that. So I just don't want to give like the kind of a born again spiel, like I was saved and then I was all set. It's been a difficult road, but that's what brought me back here.
Thank you so much, Rainn.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention to the participants, we are taking questions, as we're listening. So please go ahead and share your questions. Now we are going to go to the second poll.
A poll, yay! A poll.
Nikki, you are on.
Aha!
Okay, so this was something that came up in one of the questions about, what do you do with annoying people? So, Nikki, I will ask you to please request you to read it.
Okay, so Rainn was asked this question last week. How do you deal with annoying people? We're asking the audience, what do you usually do when you feel annoyed by the actions of others? Now, please be honest. No answer is wrong. We want to know what you do, and we're going to put Rainn on the spot and ask him too. What do you usually do? And then we have a quote afterwards, I think, from the Baha'i Faith that tells Baha'is what they should do. Whether they do it or not, it's between them and Baha'u'llah. But we want to know what you think.
For me, should I talk about it right now? I don't want to.
Don't influence
don't say anything yet.
You might affect the outcome.
Yeah, I don't want to affect the outcome.
Okay, 71
the scientific way.
72. Come on.
121 people. Come on, we can get 90 of you to take this poll. What do you say? Take the poll.
81. Come on, 82, 84.
Okay, it's climbing up there. Let's get it up to 90. Take the poll, folks.
90, 75%. Should we stop?
Yeah, I think that's good. That's good. 90 something.
91. Yeah. How about 99? Can I get a 99?
That perfectionist coming out again, once again, rearing its perfect head.
94, 95, 95. Okay, let's stop at 95 and let's share the results. So, can you see it there? 41% are trying to find the common ground and elevate the discussion. 45% quietly try to tolerate the behavior. 4% visibly fume, 5% leave the room, and 5% react by telling them, "You're annoying me."
All right, good. So let's go to the quote. I definitely go somewhere between try to elevate the conversation and just barely tolerate the behavior. So this is a quote that Chitra and I were talking about when that question came up that we wanted to share with you. And that was, it is from the son of the founder of the Baha'i Faith. His name is Abdul Baha. And he was a great, wise man and great spiritual teacher that Baha'is revere. He's not considered having the same status of prophet or manifestation as Baha'u'llah, but the perfect exemplar, the perfect example of Baha'u'llah's teachings. He actually came to the United States in 1912 for 239 days, toured all around North America. But he had this quote, which I just love. If a man, and by man it means human, that's how they talked back then, 100 years ago. If a man has 10 good qualities and one bad one, look at the 10 and forget the one. And if a man has 10 bad qualities and one good one, look at the one and forget the 10. So there's more to this quote too that we could get into. And he goes into looking for the divine in people. And when you see the good quality in someone, you're seeing God inherent in that person, because we all have divine qualities within us. We all really have an essence of God, of the creator, of the divine spark in us that are manifested through our good qualities. So anyone, no matter how annoying their qualities, might have something that you can focus on. And this is the reason I love this quote so much. Is I talked earlier about how there's two tracks of that, in that spirituality works, that religion, that faith, any of those things. Those are all kind of either spirituality or religion works personally and it works globally. And I always feel like, listen, if a spiritual practice does not make your life better on a daily basis, then you don't need it. Just get rid of it. You just ignore it and go do something useful. So I always try to look for those meat and potato teachings those like really, you could boil it down to so where the rubber meets the road. Here's a teaching that's going to help me in my day. And this one helps me almost every day. It helps me at least 2 or 3 times a week, where I'm around someone and they're driving me crazy for whatever reason. It could just be me. Maybe they're driving everyone crazy. We all know what that's like. And for me to actively focus on the one good quality, even if there are 10 other bad ones, it takes a real spiritual discipline, but it makes my life better. And I'm able to see the good in that person. And frankly, I'm hoping that people see the good in me in that way, because I can be annoying, certainly. Ask any of my office castmates. And but hopefully people can see, the good and positive qualities in me as well. Chitra, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, and there's also some thoughts coming in as well. One person uses it in their parenting, where they, make it a game with their daughter, try to find the good in people. But I mean, even if we think about it empirically, there are studies that have been done about having gratitude, seeing, thinking positively, seeing the good in others. So this quote where Abdul Baha then goes on to say, love people for the sake of that divinity in them or God in them. You love them for the sake of God, not for their weaknesses. Then I think there's something where he says they get better when you are positive towards them and you are happier. But when you focus on their negativity and they become worse, everyone's miserable, right? So it's either going on an upward spiral or a downward one. And I so agree with what you said, Rainn, about religion being a force of positivity in our lives and for it to be useful to make us better human beings. And I think that Baha'u'llah, as you said, the prophet, founder of the Baha'i Faith, said something very similar on a macro level, that if religion be the cause of conflict and disunity, better not to have religion at all, because religion is supposed to be the cause of illumination and development and the building of an ever-advancing civilization. So really, I think on an individual level, like when we talk about individual transformation and collective transformation, religion has to be a positive force in both of them.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we're ready to go to
Let's
the next
go on.
question. Yeah. All right.
Again, guys who just tuned in, these are questions that were either asked last week or sent to us or posted online from last week's discussion. Are there any Baha'i ceremonies such as Mass? What about holy days? Do you celebrate Christmas, Easter, or Ramadan? So Baha'is, Baha'is don't have Mass. We don't have church. The one thing that really bears repeating is that there's no clergy in the Baha'i Faith. So there's no priests or mullahs or gurus or rabbis or monks or anyone that has any kind of station that would be kind of above the average believer. So when me and Chitra are talking, that's just our opinions. There's a lot of other Baha'is on here that are probably way wiser about our faith than we are, and they would probably answer in a very different way. And other people would have different perspectives, and that's cool. But in terms of Mass, no, we don't have ceremonies or rituals in the Baha'i Faith. We do meet every Baha'is of every community will meet every 19 days for what's called a feast. And this is open for Baha'is and non-Baha'is. There's a session that's saying prayers and devotions, and there's a section where we have administrative a consultation about like, oh, how are we going to plan this, and what should we focus on in our community, and how can we be of service to more people, and then we talk about like how much money we raised and what's in the bank. And by the way, only Baha'is can give money to the Baha'i Faith. So people that aren't Baha'is usually don't come to that section because it's more administrative and we're talking about some of those details. But and then we have a social portion where we all gather, and And we do have many Baha'i holy days. There's the birth of Baha'u'llah, for instance, of course, and the passing of Baha'u'llah. There's many other, Baha'i New Year in the Baha'i calendar just came. It was the first day of spring, or in Persian, Nowruz, new day. And coming up very soon is the holiest Baha'i celebration. The one I love the most is called Rizvan, and it means paradise. And it's 12 days, excuse me. 12 days, and this commemorates when Baha'u'llah revealed his message that he was the most, the promised one of the ages, this new divine teacher. So other holy days, Christmas, Easter, Ramadan, etc., Baha'is don't really celebrate those, but oftentimes if you have family members that do, like, my wife's family is Christian and has Christmas trees, and we'll do that, and we'll give some gifts. And so we're not like anti-Christmas or anything like that. And then what about Baha'i traditions? Chitra, what am I missing? What am I leaving out?
No, not much. Just that in the spirit of being responsive to some of the questions that have come in, if it's okay with you, there's one that's of a little longer version. I'll try to summarize it, that has to do with this theme. So because Baha'is believe in all the messengers of God, that they all essentially have the same spiritual truth, and they bring different teachings that are suitable for the different periods in which they appear. So like Abraham, Krishna, Buddha, Jesus Christ, Muhammad, the Bab, Baha'u'llah, they taught about love, peace, forgiveness, justice, but the way people implemented those teachings were very different because of the age and time in which, they were able to implement them. So there's a question here. How do you recognize, what the truth is? I hope that I'm understanding the question in the spirit that it was, given. And going back to what Rainn said, one of the principles that Baha'u'llah brought is the independent investigation of truth. And so, Rainn, it was so great to hear.
Wait, Chitra, are you going rogue? You're just taking questions off the chat room here?
Yeah,
I thought we were on traditions and holy days.
Well, it had to do.
You're going rogue on me.
I'm coming back. Wait, it was a long way to come back. You got to trust me.
I'm just teasing. Go ahead.
Okay. So, so investigating the truth for oneself is one of the principles that Baha'u'llah brought. And so, when it comes to celebrating Christmas or Ramadan, we really, what is the quote that we can, Baha'u'llah exhorts the followers to consort with all religionists in a spirit of love and fellowship, and that we could pray in a mosque, we can pray in a temple, we can pray in a church. It really doesn't matter, we're all praying to one God, basically. So that was the way of getting that question into the slide.
Got it. No, it's good. Thank you. Wonderful. So we've got a couple other questions here, and there's a lot pouring in our little questions fountain there.
Yeah.
Are there specific commandments thou shalt not? And I think this goes hand in hand with question 4, is there sin in the Baha'i faith? So this gets very tricky, because I would say maybe the least popular word in the contemporary Western civilization vernacular is morality. After centuries of a lot of talk about sin and morals, I think humanity feels pretty beat up by the idea of morality, and people just don't like to talk about it. I think people follow a set of morals. I think there's a generally agreed set of morals that people follow. They're not dictated to us often. I mean, they are by laws, but that might be kind of more ethics, or we can have that discussion later. But so the idea that a pattern of behavior, a set of rules around behavior would be established by a God or brought by a holy teacher is a very difficult, I think, in contemporary society to deal with. And so when we could have an hour-long discussion on this, first of all, I want to say that, separate from the other Abrahamic religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, but mostly Christianity, sin is thought of a little differently in the Baha'i Faith. There is a concept of sin. I think it's closer to the original Christian idea, which was, I forget the exact word, but the original word for sin as translated into the Greek was an archery term, which means to miss the mark.
Right. Yeah.
And the idea that when you're sinning, you're missing the mark. You're aiming for the target and you're going off course. We're not born in sin. Humanity is essentially good and spiritual beings. We also have an animal nature that sometimes takes us off track. So we are kind of wrestling back and forth between these quote unquote good side and the bad side, or our animal impulses. But sin is not achieving. Sin is missing something. It's not black marks on the soul. There isn't a sense of, we talked about hell last week, but hell as a place with fire and eternal damnation is really not, what's happening with that red dot? I'm like a golden retriever looking over. Hey, can we go back a slide there?
Did you think something to that?
Did you see that that pointer? Oh,
yeah,
who's doing the
your
pointer?
Imagination. It's really happening. Okay,
It's me.
I all of a sudden became a dog following the laser. It was like, so there isn't a hell in the Baha'i Faith in terms of like a place where naughty people go and eternal damnation and sins and black marks and born sinful. There is definitely sin in terms of like doing bad things and missing the mark. And oops, something's going wrong here. I don't know what's happening. Is everything cool with you guys?
Yeah, did it
Something weird happened on my screen. Okay, there we go. So moral guidelines as given by Baha'u'llah are plentiful. For instance, Baha'is don't drink alcohol. Baha'is are asked not to take drugs. Adultery, murder, obviously.
Not the illegal drugs, right? Yes,
illegal drugs. You could have Advil. Penicillin. The Baha'is are asked not to gamble. But when Baha'u'llah, in the introduction of the Kitabi Aqdas, the most holy book, the book that has kind of some of the moral guidelines, is a really beautiful and interesting book, because he says at the very beginning that think not that I'm going to mangle the quote, but think not that I have revealed a mere set of moral codes of actions, and think rather I have uncorked the choicest wine. And he also says, obey these precepts for love of my beauty. So the idea that we're obeying these laws, these moral laws, for love of Baha'u'llah's beauty, and that they're not just a mere code of morals, but that they're a choice wine. What is that? Wine intoxicates you, that it's something flavorful, that these guidelines are there to help us with the development of our souls. So I'm kind of going all over the place, because I love this topic, and I'll just finish up in a second. I love this topic, and I could go into it in great length, but if our purpose on this earth is to develop our souls, if that's literally our purpose, we're renting our meat suits for 80 or 90 years, having a bunch of experiences, trying to become more spiritual human beings along the way, and then going on to the next plane of existence, then we're going to want moral codes to help us on that journey. So this is an act of love to be given moral laws that help us develop our souls. So that's really how the specific commandments, the shout nots, the sin works in the Baha'i Faith, is that these laws are there. They're between us and God. this is there's not like Baha'i police coming down on people of like, oh, you drank some alcohol or you played a poker game or, you know, or something like that. They're there for our own spiritual development. So what were you going to say, Chitra?
Yeah, just that I feel like the laws in my life have been so liberating. You know, it's the joy of knowing that, you know, we're developing our spiritual qualities for this world and the next, but also physically. Like, you know, when you're at a party and you're dancing and you're happy, it's because you're happy. It's because you want to dance, you want to show your movement, you know, and it's not because you're intoxicated. Something is making you behave in a certain way. It really authentically is coming from you. And so I love the laws because I feel like they're truly liberating in my life. So just wanted to share that.
Yeah, I mean, an analogy I use a lot is, I don't know if you've ever driven someplace where there's not traffic laws. Have you ever done that, Chitra?
Yeah.
Yeah, where?
On the way to Las Vegas. There are laws, but there aren't police.
Right. But I've driven in like Morocco before and Haiti, and it is crazy where there's no stoplights, stop signs, stop for a right turn. There's no agreed upon kind of moral construct. And
Yeah.
you'd think it would be like way faster, but it's way slower because everyone just piles into the intersections. They speed, they go up on the sidewalks. Like it's lunacy, and way more people are injured and hurt, and it makes society much worse to not have those values. So we either get our values from our society and our laws of our culture. Most of Americans get that, or we get our values from a higher source, and Baha'is choose to get it from what we believe is God's spiritual teacher for this day and age. So the next question.
Okay. Rainn, would it be okay if I try to loop in one more question here?
No, we're sticking to the questions, and then after we can go to the new questions.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So next one. Are we on it? Oh.
Yeah. What's the Baha'i Bible? Do you read the Holy Bible or the Quran? And this goes with it. When you talk about the holy texts in Baha'i, what are you referring to? So Baha'is believe that in the holiness of the Bible and the holiness of the Quran, and if you go to a Baha'i gathering or a devotional gathering, you'll hear quotes read from the Bible or the Quran. You hear a psalm or prayer, quotes from Jesus, quotes from the Quran, quotes from the Buddha. But you know, Baha'is believe in the teachers. The Quran is very pure because we know it was like dictated from Muhammad and written down. So we're getting the word of Muhammad. The Bible has a lot of Jesus's teachings in it, but it also has a lot of Paul's teachings and James' teachings and Peter's teachings and stories that were passed down. It wasn't written down for 150 years after Jesus died. So we don't necessarily take everything in the Bible as, wait for it, gospel, but we definitely read and peruse the holy books of the world and believe in their divine source. So the holy texts in the Baha'i Faith, there's too many. I have so many over here. Baha'u'llah wrote hundreds of books, tablets, letters. We believe that Baha'u'llah's writings are holy. Abdul Baha wrote many books. The predecessor, the precursor to Baha'u'llah, the Bab, another holy teacher, he wrote books and sayings. Not a lot of these have been translated, only a small percent, but some of the central books of the Baha'i Faith are the Kitab-i-Gam, the Kitab-i-Aqdas, the Book of Certitude, the most holy book, the Hidden Words. I have that over here somewhere. The Seven Valleys and the Four Valleys. There's many different books, and they run from, you know, for instance, Baha'u'llah wrote letters to the kings and rulers of the world when he was alive. And there's a book that includes those letters. And then there's a book called The Hidden Words that is are like these mystical little Zen koans, these little jewels of wisdom and about man's condition. And each one is only a couple of sentences. It can be one sentence or 3 or 5 sentences, these short little distilled nuggets of wisdom. So Baha'i holy texts are, there's quite a few.
Yeah.
Right, Chitra? What else? What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think that it's answered.
Did I get that one? What else do we have? Oh, we got another poll. Fantastic. People loved the poll last time we did the poll. So we're like, let's do more polls, more interactive, keep you on your toes.
Can you see it, guys?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, you want to read it, Chitra?
Chitra, yeah.
How have you been coping with the current global crisis? 1, I feel lost. I've been really struggling, not coping much. Number 2, some days I'm okay, others not. Can't hold on much longer. 3rd one, stressed out, but keeping my head above the water. Something like that. 4, I use spiritual tools to stay positive and to be a helper. Is that right, you guys? My glasses. Yeah. Okay. And then 4, I stay focused on positive outcomes of this spiritual crisis situation. That's number 5. So go ahead and.
Here we go, guys. 121 of you, please take the poll. How this current crisis, how does it affect you? And be honest. I mean, we can all say like, oh, it doesn't affect me and I only see the good everywhere. And that maybe you do, but maybe you have other reactions.
84.
Okay, we're getting up there.
Yes.
I think people are getting the hang of doing this, right?
Yes, good.
But I promise this is the last poll for today.
This is it. No more polls.
Yeah.
Great. We can do it. We can do it. We need at least 75%. Right. Come on.
Some people are saying all those answers at different times. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that.
All right.
88. Come on.
We can get it up over 90. There we go.
We can.
It's hard to put your answer into one category, right? Especially if your glasses.
Well, let's move on because our time is precious. So, Nikki, where are we at? What did we land on? Oh, there we go.
41%. I stay focused on positive outcomes of this crisis situation. Woo-hoo. 38%. I use spiritual tools to stay positive and to be a helper. 16% stressed out, but keeping my head above water most days. 4%. Some days I'm okay, others not. And only 1%. I feel lost. I've been really struggling and not coping much. Thanks for being honest. And
thank you.
Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's great. And we wanted to share a quote, and maybe Chitra, you can take this one because this was a quote that you remember. Can we go to the next slide, please? I think what you had to say when we were talking about getting ready for this was really beautiful around this. So I'll read the quote and then maybe you can just talk about it a little bit if that's okay with you. This is one of those hidden words that I was talking about from the book, The Hidden Words by Baha'u'llah. I have one here somewhere. I just saw it the other day. O son of man, my calamity is my providence. Outwardly, it is fire and vengeance, but inwardly, it is light and mercy. Hasten thereunto, that thou mayest become an eternal light and an immortal spirit. This is my command unto thee. Do thou observe it.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of these hidden words have been put to music. So if you ever want to go on Baha'i blog, you'll see that there's just a lot of people who put these little nuggets of spiritual truth into beautiful music. So I think for me, and then Rainn, please, I'm just going to briefly.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, because we want to hear what your understanding of it is as well. That a lot of times what's good for us is what makes us work really hard and struggle. That sometimes the best thing for us to grow is to be outside of our comfort zone. And you had mentioned the Seven Valleys, which is one of Baha'u'llah's mystical writings, where he goes through the valleys, the journey that a person goes through to reach his or her ultimate beloved, if we were to make the analogy that would be the unknowable essence or God or the divine. And in that, there's the valley of search and love and so forth. And so there's the story of Layli and Majnun, where it's kind of like Romeo and Juliet. And one is just searching everywhere for his beloved. And then a watchman is starting to chase him, and he's running, but he's searching for his beloved. And then he gets to this wall and fences, has to climb it, and then comes over. And when he jumps over, he sees his beloved in the garden. And then he he realizes that watchman and the person that he thought was his greatest enemy and bringing such calamity to his life was actually his providence. That outwardly it was like fire, and vengeance, but inwardly it was the light and mercy that took him to his beloved. So if we see our tests and trials in that light, it really makes a difference as to how we respond to them.
And that's beautifully said, Chitra, and thank you for sharing that beautiful story. And wonderfully said. I think, the calamity that's going on right now with this pandemic is, I don't want to belittle it. We've already lost, tens of thousands of people, and it's affecting everyone's lives. Hundreds of thousands of jobs are going to be lost. It's going to affect the economy. And a lot of people are going paycheck to paycheck, a month to month. And there's extreme difficulty that's being had by millions. And, I'm so entitled, besides being, a white male, being, in Hollywood and having had a TV show and stuff like that. So I don't have to worry about that stuff. But so I want to acknowledge all that and respect all that. But at the same time, and I think we've all seen this, like, since this went down in the last month, people are reaching out more. They're connecting more. We're finding new ways to connect. We're realizing how much we miss people. I miss giving people hugs. I miss seeing people. I miss, playing tennis. I miss high-fiving people, having lunches, being with people, being at gatherings. And I'm also gaining the perspective, and I think a lot of people are, it's like, oh, we're all in this together. And not just Americans, not just Californians, not Americans, not just North Americans, like from Peru to Mongolia to Italy to China to India. We're a species inhabiting this beautiful planet, and we need to share technology and science, and we need to share compassion and, respect and revere and uplift the diversity of humanity. And this is a very Baha'i concept that this pandemic is really showing us. People's hearts are changing in some new ways. So hopefully, if there's some good, outwardly there's fire and vengeance, but what is it inwardly? What is it again?
It is light and mercy, hasten thereunto it. So just don't stop resisting it, know that it's going to always be there.
Yeah. And that light and mercy perhaps brings humanity closer and more united in some ways. So it's an interesting way to look at. And I think for people on a personal level, we all know that sometimes we've gone through just horrible tests, horrific tests, sickness, deaths in the family, job issues, personal crises, anxiety and depression, whatever it is. And that you're really grateful. You know, I have so many of those things that have happened to me that I hated when I was in the middle. When I look back, I'm so grateful because it gave me wisdom, perspective. It shifted my life. It turned the course of my life into a certain direction. So those tests can be great. So I don't know how much longer we're going, but we had that one question that I had highlighted there. Nikki, do you want to bring that one up? Oh, you've got it all. Look at that. All ready to go.
Should I read it?
Yeah,
sure.
Please, if you want.
Okay, hi. I'm one of the people who know nothing about the Baha'i Faith. I'm wondering why, if the Baha'i Faith recognizes the quote essential worth of all religions, Wikipedia, why believe in the Baha'i Faith over other religions? I'm thinking about this in a Pascal's wager sort of sense. If another religion that threatens me if I don't believe in it, such as Christianity, isn't really wrong according to Baha'is, then even if Baha'i is more correct, shouldn't I believe in the other religion out of fear of the small chance that Baha'i isn't actually more correct?
And a related question. Sorry, I'm still trying to find.
Do it. Yeah, fit it in there. Get it in there.
The other question that was posed that's similar to this one is, how do we know that the manifestations of God are real? Like if their claim is real. So that's kind of related here.
Do you guys hear my guinea pig shrieking in the distance? He wants his evening carrots. It's like, wee! Yeah, this is a great question. And okay, Lemon, thank you. I get it. I'll get your carrot after this. So why believe in the Baha'i Faith over other religions? This is the great thing about the Baha'i Faith. I have a friend, and he came from a Christian background, and someone will say like, oh, you're a Baha'i, I'm a Christian. And he's like, I'm a Christian too. I'm a Christian and a Baha'i. Because Baha'is love Jesus and believe in Jesus and read the Bible and love Muhammad and read the Quran and revere Muhammad and revere the Buddha. And we also believe in Baha'u'llah. So how do we know any of this? You read the holy writings, you pray and you meditate, you meet with people, you study, you go on a journey, and you see what your heart tells you. That's how faith works. It works deep inside of us. It works up here, certainly, but it also works in here. So if Christianity isn't really wrong, and it isn't, it's a perfectly legitimate path. I mean, some of the most holy, profoundly holy, selfless people I've ever met in my life are not Baha'is. Some of them are Christians. Many of them are Christians. Some are Muslims. Some are atheists. There's a lot of different paths to the truth, and especially to service. But I would just say that the Baha'i Faith, we believe, is the most recent and therefore the most applicable to the issues going on in the modern world. So love thy neighbor as thyself. The teachings of the Christ are incredible. They revolutionized how everything was done in the world. There's amazing work being done by churches, but Baha'is believe that Baha'u'llah's message is more recent and therefore more applicable to, and then how do you know if a manifestation of God is real? You know, that's your journey. You have to read their writings and you have to decide, like, are they just a wise dude? Are they like Desmond Tutu or Mahatma Gandhi or Oprah? Or are they who they say they are? But the great thing about being a Baha'i is I'm also a Muslim, and I'm a Christian, and I'm a Buddhist, and I'm a Jew at the same time.
And Baha'u'llah says all those manifestations of God are seated upon the same throne, and that we should not elevate one over the other. There's also that great book, Proof of the Mission of Baha'u'llah, where he actually talks about how do you recognize the messenger of God? You know, do they truly sacrifice their life for their message? Do their deeds match their words?
Mm-hmm.
Because there could be amazing philosophers, but do they reveal things that truly transform individuals and societies? So there are ways too, like Rainn was saying, when you're on your spiritual journey, I would highly recommend that book, because it was very useful for me to try to figure that out.
Wonderful. What do we think? Where are we at with, how much time do we have for other questions?
We're at the top of the hour, Rainn, but we can't close without the last question.
Uh-oh, what's that?
Because it's one that I absolutely love.
Okay, good.
Okay, so somebody asked about the commandment thing. If Baha'is are commanded, or I can't remember the question exactly, but basically our perspective about eating meat. Why can Baha'is eat meat, kind of thing? So
that's the question?
Yeah,
of all the questions,
so
that's the one you're like, no, I'm going to die on this hill. This is the question I need. People are asking about, like, what is the nature of the soul? What is the afterlife really like? What, how do Baha'is serve humanity? And you're like, I want to know about Baha'is eating meat. Okay. That's good. I love it.
Because I'm so biased and the question came up. So, I wondered if
go. I'm just teasing. I'm teasing. I love you. Go ahead.
I'll give the answer?
Yeah, please. Come on. Of course.
Okay. All right. As you could probably tell, I'm plant-based. But I think that one of the reasons that in the Baha'i Faith, there aren't that, like, we don't have rituals and we don't have like do's and don'ts of what you can eat or not eat, except for if it's like mind altering, is because this is a faith that celebrates unity and diversity, meaning that it's for the entire world and all the cultures to manifest themselves within the faith in as much as the faith transforms them. Having said that, there are writings from Abdul Baha where he talks about humanity becoming more and more plant-based, just naturally, not because it's enforced, not because it's a Baha'i law, but just as the consciousness of humanity raises, then they will want to have more plant-based food. And to me, I love that because it's something that will happen naturally. It doesn't have to be forced. And as we see, now the connection between environmental ethics and our diet and the choices we make and how we can really try to live our values in so many different ways, that it just becomes a really great, I think, way for humanity to make progress.
Yeah, and I think if you care about, I was vegan for a long time. I have a little bit of meat sometimes, but I quit all red meat because if you want to help with climate change, it's really one of the top 3 or 4 things you could do, because the cattle industry and dairy industry, the environmental destruction that it causes is incredible. And if you really want to take a positive step towards making the world a better place, you can absolutely quit eating red meat. That's not a Baha'i thing, however.
Yeah, it is not. but I'm so happy, though, that there are so many beautiful writings that talk about, where humanity's headed, and that's one of them. So thanks for asking that question. So I think we're ready for the very last slide, because I just wanted to encourage everyone to please go to 1-800-22-UNITE if you'd like more information, and also visit the Wilmette Institute's website. There are amazing webinars that we have every week, and I'm so grateful that Rainn is going to be with us again next week. We'll be talking about the topics. Keep the questions coming in. My personal hope is that we get to hear from Rainn about how you raise human capacity within yourself and with others, hearing more about Lide, the work that you do in Haiti, and how you started Soul Pancake. I think that all of us can learn so much from your dedicated hard work. So maybe we can make it more youth-based. Please spread the word for youth to also post questions for next time. If you have any questions directly for the Wilmette Institute, please feel free to email me at cgolestani@wilmetteinstitute.org. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, dear Rainn, for spending.
Please tell your friends. Tell your friends, folks. We'd love to help us spread the word. Sorry, was Nikki? Is that you? You have something to say? Sorry.
What was the name of the book you mentioned?
Proof of the mission of Baha'u'llah, or proof of Baha'u'llah's mission, I believe.
Proof of Baha'u'llah's mission. Okay.
Yes.
Do you remember the author's name?
It's a compilation.
It's a compilation. I thought I had it on the shelf over there, but but I don't. But
yeah.
This one is the one I was referring to. This is a really good one that is just a mystical kind of spiritual koans, spiritual poems that can help lift your heart during these troubling times. Thanks so much, everyone. We'll see you next week. Chitra, you're the best. Thank you so much.
You are.
I love co-hosting this with you.
Everybody. Thank you so much, Rainn.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Thank you, Nikki and Boyd. Take care.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks everyone at the Wilmette Institute.
Thanks for all your questions.
Yes. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.